Never say, how long can I carry on? Thankful that Hashem is holding firmly onto the other end. There's an important reason why you are now spending so much time with your loved one and making them feel good. You are helping them and encouraging them. However, whilst lying in bed, you may ask yourself, how long can I carry on? You probably want to carry on for as long as possible. Not just 17 days, my wife and I had, but the rest of your life, if necessary. You would do anything just to be able to keep your loved one alive. They have become the center of your life, almost an obsession. You want to spend as much quality time with them as possible and to continue for as long as you can. Nevertheless, the question lingers, how long can I carry on? You pray for the strength and financial means. How long will it take before your money runs out? You have no more credit. We should all bear in mind that during this time we can have serious physical, mental and financial implications. My wife and I made a decision to completely cut off from everything that was instead a difficult decision to take. Regularly, we went to the synagogue to pray. I needed that type of meditation, this type of reflection, connection, mind direction, the mother of all meditations. Couldn't I get my problems out of my mind? We were experiencing a number of hardships, some financial as a result of my decision. I had given up many things I would normally do, and I had to stop projects that had actually started, some taking on new clients. I had only one thing on my mind. I was prepared to do anything for it. It was still very difficult. Here and now, we are 8 years after her first diagnosis. At the time, the surgeon had told us that she had just 5 years left to be around. The first 3 years was a long, dark tunnel. Intensive treatment. She came through and had 4.5 good years. Sadly, the cancer returned big time. After 6 months, which only proves that doctors cannot predict how long patients will survive. One day at the synagogue and standing in prayer, I had a continuous nagging question in my mind. How long can I carry on? I had a sudden vision of being up in the mountains of Switzerland. There I was standing at the bottom of the garden of our favorite hotel, overlooking a fast-flowing river. It flows so powerfully, so fast, there is water turbine just up the river supplying electricity to the whole of the area. Staring at the turbine, I lost my balance and fell into the river, feeling pulled by a powerful force directly towards the turbine. Fortunately, I was holding on to one of the strands of a thick 3-stranded rope. The only thing that kept me from being washed away and a certain death, I kept asking myself, how long can I hold on? My hands were getting tired as I was being pulled by the water. when a voice came into my head saying, "And who do you think is holding the other end?" I felt as though I was pulled out of the river, landing back in the synagogue, still holding the rope. I had arrived back fresh out of my reverie, a big smile on my face, coming out of my reverie with that big smile, a burden lifted from my shoulders. My certainty, my absolute certainty that I was not alone, much strengthened. None of us are alone. We must leave an absolute belief that the other end of the rope is being held and held by the divine. As long as our loved one, in our case our daughter, remained alive, as long as her soul was holding on to her body, is one thing, that one strand, she had the strength to carry on. Over the years, there have been enormous advances in the treatment of cancer. In particular, the one our daughter suffered from. Had she been living now in our time and age, she would almost certainly survive. However, it was a means, and it's meant to be. By now her soul has probably come back again and has been reincarnated into some kid running around in our family. Looking around, we have some grandchildren and great-grandchildren who look, talk, and act very much as she did when she was a little girl. Who knows, wherever soul is, never cease asking yourself who holds the other end of this rope. This is the faith, certainty that we need to have. This feeling of uncertainty is painful. Once you know that this other end of the rope is being held, you will feel relief, a reassurance. You must pass on to your family, your children, and anyone else too. I'm now going to tell you a story of how uncertainty and fear can paralyze one in life. Most people know the name Maimonides, the Rambam, one of the leading physicians and doctors, philosophers, and scholars of his time. Living in the time of the Ayyubid Sultanate of Egypt, he was the personal physician to the Pasha of Egypt, an esteemed position which he held despite being Jewish. He was much consulted on medical matters, and during his time, he helped many people. They learnt medical books, the books he wrote, and still consulted to this day. Many physicians went to the Pasha and inquired as to why he had chosen a Jew to being his physician, while there were many, many Muslim physicians around the king. The king responded that Maimonides was an excellent man and knew what he was doing. The Muslim physicians insisted they were just as good. The Pasha decided to put them all to a test. First he summoned Maimonides. Then he called in the leading Muslim physician who wanted to take over Maimonides' place, telling them that he was going to test them. Conduct the test, he asked each one to turn around and come back with a concocted poison to poison the other, and that whoever succeeded would get the position. It was a frightening proposition, especially when one is dealing with people who know what they are doing. Maimonides and the other physician had no choice but to agree. Before leaving, Maimonides told the Muslim physician that he must try to poison him first, so that if successful, Maimonides will not have to poison him at all. The physician was very happy, of course. He came back with an incredibly lethal concoction that he had prepared. Obviously, Maimonides understood the dangers that menaced him and spent his time preparing antidotes for all the known poisons, and he knew as much as his opponent. Maimonides remained fearless and confident, knowing that if it was his time to go, there was nothing he could do about it. However, he told his students that if he collapsed, they were to put him on a bed and each hour to give him the drink that he had prepared. His followers were very concerned, frightened of the consequences. But he had given them the instructions, and they had to obey. Maimonides returned to the Pasha and his court with his assistants. Shortly afterwards, the other physician joined in the hall where the Pasha was holding an audience. An ugly smile spread across his face. He gave Maimonides the poison. Maimonides stood there and drank, immediately falling to the ground. As instructed, his students laid him on the bed that they had brought him and they brought with them, administered the antidote that Maimonides had prepared according to his instructions. Waking up and repeating every hour, continuing until all the antidote had been used up. They made sure he never went to sleep. This stopped him from going to sleep, of course. 3 days later, Maimonides returned to the Pasha's court, healthy and well. The Pasha was pleased with his achievements, telling him that it was now the other man's turn. He asked him, actually, what did you do? Maimonides had prepared just a glass of milk with some mint inside, nothing more. Maimonides returned and handed this concoction to the Muslim physician and asked him to drink it. The man trembled in fear, but had no choice. He had to drink. He drank the concoction until his last drop. Maimonides then told him to go down home, lay down and do nothing. The man went home in fear for his life, thinking that he was going to die any moment, and having no idea how long it would take for the poison to work. Thinking that he could possibly protect himself, he started taking any antidote he could lay his hands on. On his mind disturbed, he felt terrible pain, but nothing seemed to work. Thinking no doubt that he was going to lose his life, he decided to take a glass of milk as a last resort. He went back to the Pasha very ill, but to his surprise still alive. Maimonides told him, "Tell me, I hope you didn't drink any milk today." As Maimonides uttered these very words, the Muslim physician collapsed and died. Maimonides had not given anything dangerous. The fear, the apprehension and the dread that he was going to die actually killed him. So why fear for your life when you do not see the full picture? Why ask as long as the other end of the rope is being held by the divine? Never say, how long can I carry on? Thankful that Hashem is holding firmly onto the other end. And now, it's very interesting that this is a true story that actually happened. Now, of course, we know this and it's been told for many years, but nevertheless, and it was discovered in the historical records of the Pasha that in actual fact it's written there what happened. So it's recorded and it was true. And that is a powerful thing for us all to remember. We feel pain and it's not really there because you're imagining in your mind. So we have to drain the pain It's mainly in the brain. A lot of pain we have is shadow pain, and a lot of pain is imagined pain. Why? Because you expect the pain, so you feel the pain. And if we bear that in mind, we have a better chance to live a happy life. And we must learn from this well.